Security Plus. It is Monday the 4th of March. I am happy to be here with y'all. I am just off of working out and showering and all that kind of fun stuff, and just a little bit of brain right now, but you know, I'm glad to be here and we're rocking and rolling. Let's have a wonderful day here. Drop the live stream in the Discord real quick. Housekeeping kind of things. So this will probably be one of the last few Sleep Security Plus streams that I'll be doing on this channel, and there is this channel. I am going to be moving over to the primary Sleep Security Plus channel starting next week. So next week you're going to have tonight's stream, and then Wednesday I'm also doing a talk at Kennesaw State University here just northwest of Atlanta. Pretty much doing an interview on looking into cybersecurity. I'm a career changer, so I figure why not? I'm going to know what knowledge I've gained through my journey thus far, but also the knowledge I've gained in my various work experience, and whether I can to assist new students at Kennesaw State University than, of course, anybody else that shows up, and see what we can do. So this will be my first time ever speaking, so I've got a short slide deck, and beyond that it's going to be an AMA, and I'm going to be streaming the whole thing live, so you're going to see me just rambling the entire time talking to people. So we're going to see what happens, but I'm excited for it. And actually, let me know. How is that working? Can you hear me? Can you hear the music? Lower it more? Oh. Let's see here. Dang, I feel like it's even lower than I had it before. I've unfortunately messed with a lot of my settings. I had an interview last week, and I kind of wanted to, and probably not the best thing to talk about it publicly, but I actually took my OBS and changed a bunch of my settings so I could screen record, and so I actually could record myself on my interview, so I'd go back and watch and see kind of where I think I did better and did worse. So it was really cool to be able to do it, but I was you know, had to tweak a bunch of settings and played with a bunch of stuff, and you know, it's sorry, probably boogered a few things up. I'm clicking things here too that I'm probably screwing myself up. Hold on a second, let me see what happens here. All right, you should be, actually it looks like, yeah, my headset was set as my default, so might be part of the reason why the desktop audio was so high. Tony, welcome. Great to see you. And we are no OSCP, no OSCP for me. But I did do the CISP last week, and now just kind of just giving to the community. I'm learning from everybody else at this point. So Justin Rower, we got Zemer, got Christopher Whitlock, we got Margarita. We are popping tonight. We got Kian in here, and Miss Rania rolling herself. Now this is gonna be a good stream. I'm looking forward to it. Does everything sound good? Am I clear? Music's not too loud. Everything's rock and rolling before we get going. I end up losing myself in chat when everybody's yelling at me, especially MG over there. She lays down the hammer. So Coach Tacos, wait, Space Tacos is in here. Woo! All right, that's awesome. I gotta adjust my window over here so I can actually see more of chat. I've boogered up my layout here. Makes it hard to actually see anything. Ah, that's much better. All right. Cool. So let's get moving here. Oh, I got all sorts of sound effects. Don't you worry. I grew up. My father always did a bunch of impressions and stuff like that. So I'm all about just stupid, silly voices and things like that. So we will get rolling here. Welcome to Slay Security Plus. It is Monday, March 4th, and we are going to get rocking here. So first things first. So this is going to be, wow, I did not change the slide. The only adjustment on the slide here is objective 2.4 is not going to be covered. It is going to be 2.5 only, which will encompass some of 2.1 all the way through 2.4. Bashir Dalati, great to see you this evening. Welcome to the stream. So we'll be doing 2.5 tonight. I did want to say thank you to Simply Cyber for sponsoring Slay Security Plus, providing us the support. Of course, we kind of spawned out of that community, so it is a very tight-knit, very close group that we have going on here. And those of you that came in the other way around, you've probably found Simply Cyber, and if you have not, we should probably talk after the stream and point you in the right direction. Otherwise, chat, I'm sure, will drag you by your ear over to Simply Cyber. So I'm very thankful to have Jerry and have the commitment of everybody over there kind of supporting Slay Security Plus and really looking to drive this beyond security to security and plus. We're going to be security and more hopefully down the road as we grow and as we all kind of level ourselves up. And speaking of level up, I had to throw on my Duck Hunt Threat Hunter shirt. It is probably one of the first games I ever played, was on the NES. I played Duck Hunt with my brothers. So it is getting the shirt at a conference was probably one of my favorite things, getting a Duck Hunt Threat Hunter shirt. So from a company called Vectra, and there may or may not be people creeping in our chat that might work for them as well. I saw some people sharing our posts that are part of their community. So welcome if you're there. Sagar Master, welcome to the party. Great to have you here. All right, and let's get rocking and rolling. So tonight we are not going to do 2.4 here, the given a scenario, analyze indicators of malicious activity. We did that a couple weeks ago. We are going to do explain the purpose of mitigation techniques used to secure the enterprise. Ron, yeah, I had the Power Glove as well. That thing was amazing. Justin, go home. Don't throw that shenanigans in chat. So thank you to our stream sponsor, Simply Cyber. Of course, I had my slides all backwards here. I've been, and even have sample footer text here at the bottom. That's quality right there. you cannot beat the production quality of these slides. It's been a busy day. It's going to be a busy week. So just doing my best and bringing y'all the quality content that I can. So 2.5 are mitigation techniques. So diving into mitigation techniques, the first one, and this is kind of, you're going to see this all over the place. And this is everything from your firewalls to your domain controllers to your web servers, DNS servers, whatever it is. Access control lists are going to be really what drives a lot of your rules and how you dictate what users can and cannot do, or what applications can access what parts of your environment. It's going to be essentially a list saying, is it allowed? Yes. Is it allowed here? No. And based on whatever variables, whatever protocols, it can be a number of different things. So access control lists are going to be something that you're going to deal with every step of your career, whether you are directly dealing with them or if they are kind of tangential to your work. You're gonna have something to do with it. I deal with building deny lists right now for General Electric. I have been building deny lists since I started, and a lot of it having to be part of how the company's moving and how it's transforming. We're moving servers, we're moving people around. There's people sitting in sites that are owned by one company and not by the other. And we've got to do all the work around that, how to allow people through, how to allow them to connect, and build these access control lists to, some of these aviation users shouldn't have access to this database that was once shared. And we've got to clone and cleanse this database and then redirect their traffic to the appropriate place. But access control lists will prevent them from accessing the sensitive assets from our energy division over to our aviation division. So that is something that I have had a lot of hands-on work with, and kind of one of those that I kind of enjoy. It's also kind of fun to go and set up access control lists even on your home network and just turn a port off and see what happens, see what breaks. It's especially fun when you figure out that your thermostats are running on a certain port or something like that, and you can just turn it off and then you try to connect with your phone. You realize very quickly that your phone is not connecting directly to that thermostat. It's connecting to the internet and then coming back into that thermostat. So it's exiting and then coming back into your network. So it's very cool to be able to see kind of how things work and kind of, on a small scale, kind of break things, and you can just kind of turn something off, turn it back on. It's very quick and easy. But I would say if you are SSHing into your firewall, or into your router to be able to do that, do not turn off 22 or don't turn off 80 and 443, because you are going to break a ton of stuff and you probably have to do a factory reset on it to get back into it. Just pro tip, been there, done that. But a lot of access control list stuff is used to reduce work elsewhere. So by stopping stuff at the firewall, you can reduce a large portion of the work that you would say, this particular person shouldn't have to access or shouldn't be accessing XYZ website or shouldn't be using XYZ protocol. You can block it for the entire organization. So as a blanket umbrella, access control lists work great. And then when you start getting into things like identity management and you start getting further down the pipeline, you can start using access control lists in other locations to be able to improve your security posture and kind of tighten it up where you left holes at the firewall, but you can tighten things up further from there. Now, that being said, access control lists should always be a deny any. So you deny everything at the baseline, and then above that, when you build your list, you are building it up from the bottom and you are allowing everything above that. And if it's not in the allows, so as the firewall goes down and it checks your list, it goes down the list and then it gets to deny. If it wasn't on that initial list of permissions, you're out. See you later. We don't want this. It's not going to happen. So there's a lot that goes into it and a lot of kind of things to consider. And then like I was talking earlier, like with GE, I'm kind of doing the opposite right now. So we have allow any between the businesses. So we have open traffic, and what we're trying to do is block what they shouldn't be accessing. So we're doing the inverse because it's too hard to do a whitelist. It's easier to do a blacklist or a deny list on it. So each entry in an ACL specifies a subject and an operation. So essentially you have in your access control list, you have your subjects. So in here, it's your, like in this Windows, it's your principal. So your authenticated users, your self, your enterprise domain controllers, and then you control their access from there. So whatever they can do, and then how they get those permissions, if it's coming down from a higher level or if it, and what objects it applies to. So the big thing that you'll see, and not necessarily for Security Plus, but higher level certifications, they refer to them, and I personally feel that it's easier to refer to it this way, is subjects and objects. Because subjects are, and actually we'll get to this actually I think in the next slide, but subjects and objects. So subjects are your users, they're your applications or your servers that are querying for information. They're the ones asking for something. The objects are the topic of discussion. They're the thing that something is trying to access. So when you go into Security Plus, and I was reading my book today, and it kept referring to users and or devices and or applications, I was like, subjects, like just blanket term subject. But if you understand what a subject is in that context, it makes it a little easier, and you only have to remember one word as opposed to the inverse. But Security Plus does not necessarily refer to them as subjects, but I think it's easier, at least personally, to understand that a subject is whatever is querying for that data, and the data is the object. And they do actually use the term object in some of the books. So, but access control lists, again, web servers, DNS servers, VPNs. So you can restrict access on protocols, you can restrict access on certain IPs. However you want to build it, you can lock it down tight. Jesse, great to see you this evening. Thank you for coming out. I saw you popping in for just a moment. I appreciate you being here. All right, so I threw up a couple of examples of access control lists. So you got one here that essentially gives you how you want your users to be operating within this particular forum, or whatever. Yeah, I guess it's forum moderator. So whatever access they have to certain assets within it, being able to configure the website, HTML editor, manage pictures, so only administrators. But guests might have access to just viewing or being able to post. So you can control down to kind of the individual action, what they're allowed to do. But when you get to a firewall, you can do things, permit this particular IP blocking on Telnet, or you can permit on Telnet, you can permit FTP or HTTP. You can deny, oh, geez, cannot touch my mouse. It is super sensitive. But you can block depending on the particular port or the particular protocol. So like right here on this one is deny ICMP any. So this particular access list, it is not allowing anybody to ping anything. It's completely blocking it all. So depending on what your particular security appetite is, or your risk appetite, you can tailor your firewall the way that you want it to be. So yeah, like I said, next slide. Subject. So it's a user, device, a service that is requesting access to an object. So an object being the data, device, or service that a subject is seeking to access. So it can be zero. You can't see the pictures here on the side. Let me hop over to my YouTube real quick. I think I still have it up and going. Nope, I closed it out, but let me pull it up real quick. I'm gonna take a look at that. See how terrible it looks. Oh yeah, it's it's at least a little blurry on my end. Oh, there it goes. My terrible internet. Yeah, it's definitely small. So if you're on a phone, it's probably very hard to see. But all these slides and everything are absolutely available. So if you want them, I can absolutely share them. I'm happy to pass it along. I'll throw them in a PDF, throw them up in the Discord. This is all for y'all. So I don't hold any of this. I really don't. I'm not getting anything monetary wise for throwing these things up here. So if you want them, you can have them. It's for you. So you want the information and be able to look at it as you listen to the video or watch the video, you're more than welcome to them. I'll happily post them in the Slay Security Plus Discord. So access control schemes. So yeah, the subject and the object. So essentially the user, device, or service that is trying to access the data, especially, or gain access to a device or service, and be able to utilize it. So you have, if you think about it, the person that is doing the request or trying to gain access is the subject. The object is the target that they are trying to get to. When you really get down deep into it, and this is where I feel like a lot of students have trouble, is with the access controls. And personally, I have trouble with this. I can actually show you, I got a 83 on my practice exam today that I took, just kind of covering this to just kind of refresh myself, and kind of, well, really probably didn't need the refresh after SysP, but I still only got an 83 on my Security Plus practice exam covering this content. So like, I'm very much in the same boat. I still have stuff to learn. I still get tripped up by certain questions and things like that. But when you dig into it, you have these are your primary ones that you need to know. You have MAC, your mandatory access control. You have DAC, your discretionary access control. You have RBAC, your role-based access control. You have another RBAC, or I've actually only seen this twice, RUBAC. It's not very common. You'll just see RBAC in two different ways, and it's going to be very contextual on like what it is, but you're not going to have two different, like, it's not going to have, in the same question, you're not going to have role-based access control and rule-based access control as your answers. It is highly, highly unlikely that is going to happen. So do not stress about it. If you think the answer is RBAC and it's talking about access control lists versus users and subjects. If it's asking about access control lists, it's probably rule-based. So go with RBAC. And the way that they actually quiz you on the test, they do not put it as mandatory access control, discretionary access control, role-based access control. It is MAC, DAC, RBAC, and then of course the last one here, attribute-based access control. So the big differences here. So mandatory access control, the biggest part of this is it is whatever the device that it's running on essentially grants those permissions to the users. So the way that I think about it is that, and I put it here at the end, high security, government, military. This is something that is going to be your trade secrets within a company. It's going to be, military secrets. It's going to be a top secret computer, but that computer is going to say, okay, Taylor has access to XYZ, and that is it. You cannot do anything else. As Taylor, I could have the highest clearance, but I cannot grant any clearance lower than that to anybody else. Like, I cannot give somebody else access to those objects. The people that administer that particular computer probably can't even see the data. They can't access it, but they can control the permissions. So it's essentially whatever that entity is, it just says, here's what you get, and that's it. You can't do anything with it other than you can view it, you can work with it, but other than that, you cannot share with anybody else. You're not able to do anything else. So mandatory access control is probably the most locked down of all the access controls. Often you will see it as a grid. It'll essentially be a table that will show you, here's the different levels, here's the different the user levels, and then it'll have like squares highlighted to indicate who can access what and how they can access it. So it's going to be very much on a kind of a matrix that are the way that they'll set up mandatory access control. Discretionary access control, the way that I think about this, and I mean, hopefully y'all all have been playing with Linux at some point or another and have messed around with chmod and being able to change permissions. Discretionary access control is blatantly apparent in Linux, because when you switch over to root and you use chmod, you as the root user, you are the owner of whatever object, can give permissions to other users. You are designating that object, that folder, that path to be accessible to that user. So the best way to do it is to actually look at it in the terms of Linux and how permissions are granted and things like that. So you think about it, it's very flexible. I can give Justin access to this file. I can give Margarita access to another file. I can give them both access to another one, but I can also restrict access to certain files depending on who I have that control over, that ability to share with. Even as a user in Linux, if I, say Justin and I were using the same computer, I have a file I can change because I'm the owner of that particular file. Say I wrote a script or something like that. I can go into chmod and actually change the permissions on it and give Justin access to that and give him the permissions to be able to access that particular file. So discretionary access control, anybody at any level can give access to anybody else at any other level. So it's really at the best way to remember it is the owner's discretion who gets access to that particular file. Give me just a second. I'm going to take a sip here my throat's a little dry. So role-based access control. If you think about kind of user provisioning, when you're using Active Directory, things like that, you have different levels of users. So say you have groups that are, you have receptionists, you have accounting, you have finance department, you have administrators, you have executive level, however it is, each user gets assigned a particular role. So you have a bunch of different roles, but you may have the executives and then, finance roles under that. And then you have accounting under that. And then you have a different department that is accounts receivable. And then you have sourcing, or however you want to look at it. You can have an overall role that is, say, finance, and everybody has access to it. But then within that finance department, you have sub roles, and you essentially assign privileges to certain documents or certain things based on, where that particular document is required, or that particular file, that data is required. So you can actually dial that down all the way to, only the receivables has access to this particular document, or they should have access to it. And, because the people above them may not, or somebody who is in, I say above them, but somebody who's in the bigger group, even though because they're part of that bigger group, they may not be able to have access to that file because they're not part of that accounts receivables department, or not part of the sourcing department, or part of any other finance operation within the group. So it's one of those where, just depending on how you have your Active Directory set up and how many roles you have assigned, you can essentially break it down to where you can assign permissions based on individual roles. And this is the way a lot of companies are set up, is that you have, a base level that here's how every operating system should work, here's how every user should work. And then depending on your role, it'll dial you through this tree, and that's the level of access that you're actually able to get. So the three rules of it is role assignment, role authorization. So role assignment is the permissions that you're being assigned. Role authorization is, are you allowed to access particular data. And then the final one is permission authorization. Do you have permission to access that data? So you may be authorized to it, but then it goes one step further and looks, do you have the permissions to be able to dig into it? And like I said, it's very hierarchical. It's very much based on, you can have larger groups with a lot of subsets within it to narrow down the individual control on certain documents. So the other RBAC, your rule-based access control, the best way to think about this one is access control lists. And like I said earlier, when you dig into the exam, when you see something and you read a question and it has something about a firewall or a switch or a server, and then it starts asking about access control lists, and then you get RBAC, DAC, MAC, the answer is RBAC. It's going to be RBAC. So it is very seldom that you will see it. And it's going to be one of those that you've got you've got something goofy in that question. It's probably going to be a paragraph like I saw in the SysP, that it's going to have 5 different situations, and then you've got to pick out the one that the actual question ties to. You're not going to see something like that on Security Plus, but really when you read the question, then you read the answers, and then you read what the question's really asking you. If it's asking you about access control lists, that is your jam. Rock with it, run with it, go. Attribute-based access control. This one is driven by the attributes of a given user or the subject. So if you think about it, the attributes of a given user or subject, I think location, I think the time of day that you're accessing these objects, I think about the security posture of the device that you're accessing from. I'm looking at all the things that are kind of intangible as far as you trying to access this object. It is totally based on almost user behavior at that point. How quickly, so like say you logged off at 5 p.m. and that session closed, but then you logged in from a time zone 7 hours away at 9 p.m. You probably didn't log in there. So location would restrict it, time would restrict it. There'd be a lot of different things that could actually tie back into that and be able to give you that attribute-based access control. So one of those things you start to see, I think I talked about it a couple weeks ago, the Superman effect, where somebody logs in New Jersey and then they log in California, and the 2 logins were 10 minutes apart. Only person that could do that would be Superman. So that is something that you use in attribute-based access control. It's very much looking at your normal user behavior. This diagram I thought was absolutely fantastic, kind of breaking down the subjects, objects, and the environment, and then how each of them impact the access controls. So discretionary is all about the subjects being able to, it's all about controlling the subjects. So giving subjects access to the objects. MAC leverages both. So it needs the attributes of the subject and the attributes of the objects to match to be able to happen. And then attribute based needs all 3. So you've got to have, that particular subject needs to have the rights to be able to access the objects, but within that environment, it has to be within the terms of the attribute based access control. So the correct time zone, the correct time period, it's got to be the right security posture for your actual object. Christopher, mandatory access control is absolutely probably the most locked down of them all. Only on top of that, if you kind of blend it with attribute based, but most of the time mandatory access control is going to be a localized control or a jump box into a direct system. So it's going to be very localized. So you're not going to have a server that 700 people are accessing and it's using MAC. It's going to be a smaller pool of people. So it's a lot easier to maintain at that point. But you will see discretionary access control, or not discretionary access control. You'll see RBAC leveraged with ABAC and those two will work together. We start having roles tied to attributes, but then it all falls under attribute based at that point, for the most part, as far as the exam goes. But then, yeah, I mean, your reference monitor is your operating system, your firewall, your intrusion detection system, your intrusion prevention system, whatever is making the decisions to allow access to that data, to the policy, to the rules, whatever those policy and rules are to allow that access. So, I mean, the down here at the bottom, who, what, when, where, why, how, to what extent. So who's doing it? What are they trying to access? When are they accessing it? Where are they accessing it from? Why are they accessing it right now would be how I would put why, or why could be, do they really need this for their job? How are they accessing it? So is it from a computer that's known to the network or not? Is it from, it's from their phone? Is it from their laptop? However, is it something that we know on our corporate network? And then to what extent, how much data are they trying to get? So that's what that comes down to, the who, what, when, where, why, how, and to what extent. And then your what is your object, your who is your subject. So the other two that I didn't want to make a whole slide on, but also very important, your time of day restrictions, which kind of tie into your attribute-based access control. Just limit when activities can occur. Probably won't see, highly unlikely that you'll see a question on the test about time of day restrictions. I think I've seen one question in all my practice tests. And so I don't think it's something that's going to be high priority to test, because it kind of falls under the attribute-based access control. So your questions are going to be more focused towards ABAC. Least privilege. This is a foundation at this point for cybersecurity. Accounts and users should be given the minimum set of permissions and capabilities necessary to perform their role or job function. So whether it's a service account, whether it is a log server retrieving logs from something else, it does not need any more permissions than it actually needs to achieve that goal. So if you operate on that privilege, on that concept of least privilege, it innately is secure in itself, because it doesn't allow that movement, that privilege escalation was what I was looking for. So those two terms, definitely good to know for the exam. I would probably say number 2 more than 1, but that is where I will leave this slide. So the other big topic that comes up in Security Plus is endpoint mitigations. Really, the starting point here is patch management, patching. You gotta patch it. So it is absolutely patching, making sure everything is up to date, that any vulnerabilities have been taken care of. And having a way to go back and verify that those vulnerabilities have absolutely been taken care of. So having a way to test and ensure that, just because you initiated that patch, that it actually did get patched in the end. Encryption, so things like theft prevention modules, being able to do database file volume encryption. You gotta patch it. No, but being able to do that encryption is absolutely key to protect your files when they are at rest, or when they are not necessarily in use. You may have, they're sitting there on the server, but they need to be encrypted until somebody who's authorized accesses them and is able to unencrypt them from there. So the other thing I was trying to think of alongside the TPM, the theft prevention module, is Apple's version of it. It is trying to remember the name of it. One of y'all will throw it into chat here. I'm sure it's got a funny name. Makes me think of something like Diablo, the higher powers. Like, it's got a goofy name to it. But it's one of those things where you got to have some way of verifying your hardware, verifying your boot process, but also being able to encrypt the data that is on your device when it is turned off or when you're not logged into it. Configuration enforcement, this really comes down to your device management, down to your security baseline configuration. So when you deploy something into your environment, how do you actually set those devices up? What is the minimum requirements for that device to be able to access your network? And then from there, how do you secure it up to the level that it needs to operate? So having those baselines and those, goals that you have to have is the best way to go. Cybertologist, you're getting someone talking and interfering this session. I've got 2 dogs asleep behind me, but other than that, oh yeah, no, I really need to start paying for Upbeat for background music. Throw a couple bucks their way, because yeah, they will pop in and start babbling, giving me commercials, and making it really annoying. I apologize. Decommissioning. This really comes down to secure disposal. So whether it is crypto shredding, and so you encrypt a device and you throw away the key, essentially. Whether it is zero wiping, doing a DoD wipe, or degaussing, or however it is, if you actually physically shred devices, secure disposal, essentially protecting your information. How do you get rid of these devices once they are at end of life? No, Rania, BitLocker is kind of a function, or BitLocker works off the TPM. So I was more talking, you know what? I'm going to look it up right now. Secure Enclave. That's what it was. Secure Enclave. Thank you for making my brain work. Zero wiping is your bathroom policy. I sure hope you at least have a bidet. That would at least make things somewhat okay. You got the pressure wash from the bottom. I think that'd be, justified at that point. But otherwise, that's gross. So, yeah. So decommissioning really comes down to the secure disposal of your equipment. A lot of the times, companies want to be able to repurpose it, so they will actually go through and contract with somebody to do a secure wipe on these devices, and then allow them to be able to repurpose it from there. Your hardening techniques for your endpoints, you have encryption, which we already covered. Your HIDS and your HIPS, so your HIDs and HIPs, your intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems. So your HIDs is your host-based intrusion detection system, and then HIPS is your host-based intrusion prevention system. Essentially, they act as something to monitor the activity on your device to be able to either detect and respond in the event, or in the case of the prevention system, be able to prevent things from occurring. Depending on your devices and how strong they are, you may only be able to have a detection system, then have a high threshold or have a low threshold for alerts, so you get alerted every time something weird goes on. Or if you have a prevention system, you can automate a lot of that and have that system be able to take care of events that happen. But depending on what your users are trying to access and things like that, you may only want a detection system to be able to let somebody go and access something, and then be able to, you probably shouldn't have gone on Facebook today. That shouldn't be happening on a work computer. We need to have a separation there. So kind of is just it's a babysitter to a degree, but it, will prevent a lot of attacks in the case of the host-based intrusion prevention system. Disable unused necessary ports and services. This one's big. If you are running a Windows server and you're running it for a database and you have port 1533 or 1532, I think it was, one of those two, you have that open, great. But if you have 443, 80, 23, 21, all open? Probably not necessary. You're probably not running a web server on that. You're probably not using it as an FTP server. Turn them off, because all it is a larger footprint for an attacker to be able to attack. So that is absolutely key. You can absolutely do that on your local system firewall, but I can especially do it on your network firewall. On your home router, you can even do that. But be careful, depending on how many devices you have, you can quickly overload that router. If it's not one of the like $700 home office routers that has dual core and 19 gigs of RAM and is an absolute beast. So, but you can set some base rules in there, allowing certain traffic and stuff like that, and disabling anything that is not supposed to be going through. Password policies on Security Plus, length is God. So when they ask you about password policies and what is the most impactful way to change your password policy, length is key. Remember that. The longer the password, the most impact it has to somebody trying to break into it. A 8-digit password versus a 16-digit password, it doesn't matter if that 8-digit password is absolute gibberish of letters, numbers, and symbols. It's going to be easier to crack than a 16-digit that is 3 words and spaces and an exclamation point and all lowercase. So the length is the big key there, because there's so many more iterations that somebody has to do to be able to get through that, to get to the to be able to match it up in a hash, like a rainbow table or anything like that. So length is absolutely key. You will see things about periodic resets. It is not so much common, at least as of 601. They started to kind of peel away from it, because you're starting to see a lot more that a lot of the password reset mentality is now changing to 90, 180, 360 days. You're really starting to push up to a longer term password that is only changed in the event that it's actually necessary, so you don't have people writing their passwords down on stuff, things like that. So but those are the 2 big takeaways on password policy. You will see stuff about complexity. I mean, we all know that the more gibberish you can throw into a password's better. So hopefully you'll be able to pick out, if they give you a list of passwords and ask you which one is the most secure, you choose the long one, you choose the one that has the most symbols and the most variation in it. But my personal opinion is, if it is longer, I will always choose the longest one if they're actually like materially different lengths. So just my 2 cents worth. And then the infographic here, just really kind of rehashing a lot of this. So if you look, least privilege, we just talked about that. Finding tools to isolate data and system workloads, that can be your intrusion detection prevention system. That can kind of come down to your isolating data, can also be kind of a function of your encryption as well, being able to hide the data that's not necessary. But also that comes down to memory management as well. So being able to isolate the memory and prevent processes from crossing over each other and being able to access each other's memory. Firewall, right down here, unnecessary ports. Stay up to date with OS patches and updates automatically if possible. You gotta patch it. That is it. Yes. Patches are key. Patching is always the answer. Regularly monitor and check things like user access, existing controls, and potential vulnerability. This is your constant monitoring. This is your regular assessment of your environment. It doesn't matter if it's endpoints or operating systems. This is your entire environment. This is just key, just good policy all the way around. Again, only running applications, ports, and features absolutely necessary. And then framework that lets you customize permissions and increase protection for system application resources. So that is back to your DAC, MAC, RBAC, ABAC. So it all ties back together, and it all works. Oh, Chris, I've absolutely been practicing that. I practice it in the shower. I'm making sure I can absolutely do it. I'm probably gonna have to record my own because I can't find a clean one that I can rip out of YouTube and put on my soundboard. So, and apparently I don't know if my soundboard's actually working. I'm gonna try one here. No, it doesn't want to work today. Oh, gonna go? Nope, guess not. Well, if you hear "we landed on the moon" or Taco Bell gong, it's working. So that is it for 2.5. We're gonna roll into domain 3 tomorrow. I did want to throw out there, I am going to be streaming on Wednesday from Kennesaw State University here just northwest of Atlanta. I did say this at the beginning, but I'm going to be talking about breaking into cybersecurity, shamelessly borrowing some of the concepts and stuff that Dr. Gerald Auger has put out there, some of the other leaders and influences that have made an impact on me in the industry, the things that I know and that have worked for me. I'm going to be just throwing my knowledge out there and recycling a lot of other people's knowledge and claiming it as my own with credit to them. So this will be my first time ever speaking. So come out, heckle me, make it difficult, but I will be watching chat. I will be, you'll see me standing probably in front of a whiteboard or whatever it is. I still got to figure out how the setup is, but I'm going to be flexible depending on the size of the room. I may be in a, actually big, kind of the thing that scares me is that it's atrium. So it sounds like it's going to be a big room. So we'll see what happens. But I'm hoping to just share some knowledge, and I'm gonna get to meet some amazing students for the second time, hopefully a lot of them, and be able to talk to them about it's worked for me, and then how to go from being a student into the industry and kind of that path to be able to make it in. So but yeah, we're gonna have a good time. It's gonna be recorded, it's gonna be up on YouTube, it'll be here on this channel, and we're gonna be rocking and rolling. So I'm really looking forward to it, and being able to partner with the Information Systems Security Association club at Kennesaw State University here in Atlanta. So the free pizza, it's in the mail. Check's in the mail, so just wait. It'll get there eventually. Don't worry. I did send it. Don't worry. But if y'all have some time beyond that, I do have a few practice questions that we can drill through. I know I tend to talk a lot while we are going through this because it is 4 minutes till 8 o'clock, and holy cow, I still have 10 practice questions to go through. So let's rock and roll. I am here. Like I said, I say it again and again, I am here for you. I love doing this. This is fun. So let's keep going. We are going to rock on over. Space tacos. I hope you're getting tacos for a snack. That is the only acceptable snack for you. You better hurry up and bring those tacos to the party. But no, let's get rocking and rolling here. But yeah, that's the big news. I'm going to post about that here later tonight, and start pumping it out there. But really looking to hopefully see my Slay fam out there supporting me, and listen to me continue to babble on like I do every Monday night. I'm going to do it on a Wednesday in front of like 30 plus people. So it kind of terrifies me, but if I think about it that I'm just talking to y'all, I think I'll be fine. So let's jump into some VVox here. Oh, snapped to the wrong screen there. All right, so rocking and rolling. So join in on vvox.app. The ID tonight is 161-779-888. So 161-779-888. We're going to go ahead and start the session. Wait, why did it say February 19th? No, this is the right one. I don't know why it gave me February 19th. Mithra Beata, I will shoot you the information on it. But yeah, it is primarily for the ISSA club there at Kennesaw State, but they are fully aware that I'm going to have people showing up that are not Kennesaw State students. So it is totally cool. But I'll shoot you over the information. Yeah, Zemer, I was actually thinking about throwing a couple QR codes to resources on my slides on Wednesday, just to see who in the crowd goes and scans them and who scans the one that's a Rickroll, and have like 6 of them up on screen, and then just let it be, roulette, see who hits the wrong one, and then, Rickrolls their phone right in front of 30 other people. So it'll be, it's an idea, I'm thinking about it, but we'll see what happens. So I've got 4 of y'all in the party this evening. So we are rocking and rolling. Really wish I could get this darn Stream Deck working. It only works like half the time. Really frustrating. So weird. Don't be that guy. Really? Come on. Cool. We got all 4 answers in. So what phase of the incident response process leverages indicators of compromise and log analysis as a part of a review of events? So preparation, identification, containment, or eradication? So is it in the preparation phase, identification phase, containment phase, or eradication phase?
Hey, it's Benji from All Good Folks.
Identification. Nailed it. So the analysis phase, or the identification phase, focuses on using various techniques to analyze events to identify potential incidents. Preparation focuses on building tools, processes, and procedures to respond to incidents. And then eradication involves removal of artifacts related to the incident. Perfect. Y'all nailed that one. All right, we are up to 5 people now. Perfect. So Alyssa has identified malware on a system. She removes the system from the network to ensure that it cannot impact other systems. What technique has she used to deal with this system? Is it quarantine? Is it segmentation? Is it converted the system to agentless? Or is it deny listing? There are two answers here that are very similar, but not, one of them's not quite right. So just a tip from running through this one earlier. We're up to 6 people. Yes. All right. I appreciate y'all coming out on a Monday night. I know this is, Mondays are rough. So 7, even better. Awesome. We got big participation tonight. This is amazing. Yeah, I think 6 is probably the most I've had, but it's been most of the time about 3 to 4. So no, this is absolutely fantastic. I'm excited. I'll give it another moment for the 8. Yes. We have 8 and 8 people watching. That's fantastic. All right, we're going to go ahead and close number 2 here. So she removes the system from the network to ensure that it cannot impact other systems. Is it quarantine, segmentation, converting the system to agentless, or deny listing? Survey says y'all rock. Yes. Quarantine. That is absolutely the correct answer. So she has quarantined the machine so it cannot reach other systems or impact the rest of her organization. So segmentation would be putting the system in a protected network zone. So often you'll see segmentation. You'll have very similar systems all in the same area, or the same kind of operating schema. They often deal with the same data, very similar data or similar processes. And so you'll actually create a network segment of those and protect that particular zone because it's a certain because it's that certain portion of the network. So you wouldn't necessarily use segmentation to quarantine unless it's the way your network is configured, and you can actually quarantine a particular segment of that network, or if that whole segment was compromised, you could actually quarantine a whole segment. But segmentation is not the correct answer there. It is going to be quarantine. Just like we did back in the Rona. Yep, space tacos. You get the Rona, you gotta quarantine. Go sneeze on yourself and come back later. So and Zemer, I know that whole essential worker thing. I did that all the way through Rona. I was working in the automotive industry, and we were a essential business. And I mean, I worked 100% through that in retail. I mean, working with 30 to 50 people a day, like between employees and customers that I would see. That was incredible. I didn't get Corona until after I got out of the automotive industry and was working from home. I ended up getting it. So absolutely incredible. Hashtag Team Nut Runner. So Naomi has discovered the following TCP ports open on a system she wants to harden. So Naomi is hardening a system. Which ports are used for unsecure services and thus should be disabled to allow their secure equivalents to continue to be used? So on this question, it's kind of a 2-part question here. So what are the unsecure services listed? The other part that I look at is which ones have secure equivalents is the other part of it. So when you're thinking about the ports that are up for choice in this question, what answers have unsecure ports or are all unsecure ports? And then which ones have secure equivalents is going to be your best answer. Dang, Justin, that's crazy. Yeah, I remember like midway, it was probably about 9-10 months into the Rona. My grandfather is at a assisted living facility, and like it was like an act of Congress to get in and see him. Like you couldn't get in there. Like it was absolutely insane. I mean, especially rough for him. I mean, dealing with dementia and failing health and everything else. Like, I mean, can't go see your grandfather. Like, that was a rough time period. But they did end up assisting us down the road, and when it was time, they actually let like 7 or 8 of us into his room at the same time in the middle of Corona. Let us bring in beer and wine and everything else and just celebrate his life. Like it was probably one of the most incredible things like that assisted living facility could have done, was allow the entire family to come in there and actually see him and everything else. It was rough that time period, but it was absolutely incredible. The people that we got to meet through that facility.
So let's see the spread on this one. This one is a, all right, cool. So we have people all over the place here. So 21, 22, and 80. So unsecure services. Port 22 is SSH. That is secure service shell. So that one is a secure protocol. 21 is your FTP and would not be secure. 80 is HTTP and is not HTTPS. So 22 would knock out the first one from being an unsecured service. But when you think about it, 21 being FTP and then 23 being Telnet, I go for the quantity on this one, not necessarily the quality here. So when you look at 21, 21 could be FTP or SFTP or FTPS or however they want it. It depends on the book. It's FTP secure. So it could be FTP or FTP secure. So when I look at it and I've got 21 and 80 as an option, and yeah, I mean, you have kind of half and then one, but then I've got the question below that's got a half and then hold on, it's got Telnet. Telnet's clear text when it transmits. That one's a 1. That one's a 1. So I've got 2.5 points here. I've got 1.5 here. I've got 0 here because I've got a secure in there. And then I have 2 secure options here between SSH and HTTPS. So the 3 ports that she sees open that should be eliminated are FTP, Telnet, and HTTP. Yeah, Rania, that was one of the ones that when I was going through ports and actually, oh, I've got it right here. Sorry if this is really loud. I gotta move some stuff off my box of cards here. But I have my special box that is full of flashcards, but I have an entire deck that are off to the side that is 480, 143, 427. There's nothing on the back of these. Later in the deck, I have all of the actual services, and I put a little M on them to mark them so I knew that they were match cards. But I essentially set up the old, like as a kid, where you had the whole plate in front of you of like 20 or 30 cards, and you had to flip them over and remember which one was what port or what whatever it was, and then match it to the other side. That was one of my techniques for learning ports. Was I needed to go back to being a 6-year-old kid playing a match game and trying to find the 2 cards that matched. So ports are rough, but you've definitely gotta learn them. So because they still, even in SysP, they still come up. Yep, memory match is absolutely one of the keys to my success. So what is the primary reason to remove unnecessary software during hardening efforts? Space tacos, absolutely. You know, if you're not having fun learning, you're not learning. Well, I guess you could learn under duress, but you know, in all reality, I prefer to make it enjoyable and have fun doing it. So, you know, why not make a game out of it for myself? And you know, all it takes is some flashcards, a Sharpie, and my time. And honestly, by going through pairs of cards and I'm writing down port 80 on it, HTTPS, like that actual writing it down is the same as writing it on both sides of a flashcard. So it's just the repetition. I can keep doing it. Yeah, Space Tacos, if you can make it funny and make it memorable, that is the best way. When I think about it, I think about the the TCP/IP stack or the OSI model. OSI model is what I'm thinking of because TCP/IP is only 4. But the way that I remember the OSI model is please do not take salespeople's advice. And it's funny to me because I worked in the car business and salespeople are terrible human beings. They eat your lunch, they sell you things you don't need, and they don't know what's going on beyond their desk. So it was one of the funniest things when I had that one, like when I was looking at the please do not throw away, or please do not throw sausage pizza away. I was like, it's okay. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, please do not take salespeople's advice. Yes, that is it. That is the one that I'm going to remember this by. So it is, you know, whatever works for you. But find something that makes it memorable. So, but I've even told it to salespeople that have cybersecurity degrees, and they're like, oh my God, they're like, I am absolutely stealing that. I'm using that later. They absolutely love it. So it, you know, I might be targeting a certain group of people, but they, you know, at least the ones I met enjoy it. So primary reason to remove unnecessary software during hardening efforts. Let's see here. Reducing the attack footprint, reducing the number of patches that need to be installed, reducing the number of firewall rules required, or to support incident response activities. Space Doggers, you need to send me the link to that, and I've got to get Professor Roger on here. So, while removing unnecessary software would provide the benefit of less patches that need to be installed, the primary security reason is to reduce the attack footprint of the device. So not a wrong answer, but not the best answer. So not all your software is going to run as a service. It's not, depending on the particular device. It may not have software particularly or running on that particular device. So if you think about a firewall, it probably doesn't host any applications or host very few, depending on how that firewall is set up. But the main reason is to reduce your attack footprint, or your attack surface is going to be your big ticket there. All right, here we are. Here's your security plus question. What type of access control scheme it best describes the Linux file system? So what type of access control scheme best describes the Linux file system? Is it Mac? Is it RBAC? Is it DAC? Is it ABAC? And I'll give you a little bit of help here. Mac is your mandatory access control. RBAC is your role-based access control or rule-based access control. DAC is your discretionary access control, and ABAC is your attribute-based access control. So thinking about our conversation about which one, when you think about it, think like if you think about this particular one, you think Linux, you think Windows, Mac, RBAC, DAC, ABAC, ACK. Now the language of the aliens and Mars attacks, that's absolutely the TCP handshake. Ax and act. Actually, when I can figure out how to get my stupid Stream Deck to work, which really frustrates me because I've tried to get this thing to work, that is going to be one of my sound effects. I'm gonna put the Mars attacks aliens on there. That is absolutely going to be it. So survey says half of y'all were right. So it is discretionary access control. So if we think about our Windows and Linux systems, and as a user being able to share a document with another user by putting it into a shared folder, that is, you are taking the discretion to share that object, to share that file, that directory. So that is your discretion discretionary access control. It's at your discretion, at the owner's discretion to share that. Probably the easiest way to remember that. Just, is it the owner giving the permission or is it somebody else? Oh, Chris. Come on, Captain GRC. No, you're all good. It's honestly, I'm pretty sure I missed a couple of these questions on the SysP. I'm almost positive. So it's not easy because they're like everything else in this industry. It overlaps. It ties in. It happens. But we're not here for a score. We're here to learn. So it always feels good to win. So, but you know, I don't see who wins. Honestly, doesn't matter. I just want to be able to see that y'all are learning and we get to talk about it. So, but yeah, so you've got mandatory access control, which enforces settings set by the systems administrator, not by the owner of that data. Role-based access control is going to be based upon that user's role and not a user sharing something else with another user. So yeah, Chris, I mean, like I said earlier, at the start of the stream, I legit gotta actually, let me pull it over right here. I got an 83 today. I missed 5 out of 30 questions today on my Security Plus practice exam. So like, yeah, I've done Pen Test Plus, I've done CYSA, I've done CISSP. I still miss questions. It happens. Don't feel bad. We try and learn from it. We try and grow. That's the biggest takeaway I can say, at least that I have. So on to the next one. Frank wants to keep a system online, but limit the impact of the malware that was found on it while an investigation occurs. What method from the following list should he use? So he wants to keep a system online, but limit the impact of the malware that was found on it while an investigation occurs. And Rania, you're not going to forget it now because you heard Linux and it's stuck and it's something that you can connect to. Those little connections are what makes it work. And I feel like I missed a message earlier. I'm pretty sure it was from Frank. Yeah, Pyrus. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, absolutely like and sub. You know, I will feel better about myself. You know, I'll give myself a little pat on the head. You know, I'll feel much better. But no, it's honestly just to get more people to be able to see it, and you know, eventually somebody will stumble across my videos and they'll help. So, but like I said, next week I am moving over to the primary Slay Security Plus channel. We will be streaming as one Security Plus going forward. I will still throw some shenanigans out on my channel. So stuff like my talk at Kennesaw State, anything that is more Atlanta kind of focused or just more me focused, I'm going to throw stuff up there. I've got some plans coming up that is going to make some big impact in the community. It's going to be a long road and a lot of work, but I think there's a big payoff for everybody down the road. And I say everybody meaning the community. So I've got a lot of good stuff coming. Actually, I have a meeting about it tomorrow that I'm really looking forward to. And I mean, hopefully, you know, we can make some waves in this industry in a good way. So we're gonna ride these waves in the right direction. So we've got waiting on 3 more answers, but I'll give it another moment here. Really wish I could get the dumb soundboard to work. I play my Jeopardy theme song. really dumb. Can't figure out why this thing doesn't work. Spend a lot of money and don't get a broken piece of equipment. All right, we're gonna rock and roll on to the answers here. So, Space Tacos, you are gonna love it when you hear it. But to tell you what, we'll get through the rest of the questions. I will actually give you a little insight into what I'm working on, because it's not really anything that I have to keep super quiet. It's just something that is very much in its infancy, but I kind of want to make it more known because I need help. Honestly, what I'm getting into, I have no idea what to do. I'm kind of stumbling through it blind, and I know I'm going to make it work, but any help I can use to get there, I'm going to take it. So that's the big thing. So containment was our answer. Perfect. So containment activities focus on preventing further malicious actions or attacks. So essentially being able to prevent the malware from spreading, but leave that system online to be able to investigate memory, to investigate, be able to look at the hard drive live, be able to look at the traffic that is coming out of it back to the command and control server. So being able to contain it from the rest of the network, but still be able to monitor it and be able to use it in a live fashion is absolutely the right answer. Segmentation could be a form of containment, but it would fall underneath that umbrella of containment. So that is our correct answer. So Alan is preparing to harden his organization's network switches. Which of the following is not a common hardening technique for network devices? So, which of these would you not do to a network device? Zemer, once we're done, so we're on question what? 7 to 10? Once we get through all 10 questions, I will show you what I'm working on, and especially I've got a meeting tomorrow, like I said, about this, and really looking forward to, especially the connections that I made in the past week, growing this initiative that I'm championing here in the Atlanta area, and seeing what I can do with it, and just, like I said, make some waves in this industry in a good way. We're at 6 of 7, 7 of 7. All right. And I do realize I say all right quite a bit, so kind of feel like Matthew McConaughey or whatever. I might need that on my soundboard too. So removing unnecessary software. So primarily your network switches will not have an operating system that can run software. Yeah, your router absolutely could. It's a multifunction device. It's got a lot of stuff on there, but like I know I've got one of those Asus. It's got a bunch of garbage on it. But being able to go to open WRT and download software that's clean, doesn't have all the garbage on it, is a nice thing to have. Being able to remove anything that could be a possible threat vector, but not a common thing for network switches. If you go onto a Cisco switch, it's not going to be running anything else but Cisco's operating system. There's not going to be anything else to remove from it. You're pretty much going to install patches, set up your administrative VLANs, change your passwords, and you gotta patch it. But that is 99% of it. So, yep. Unlike computers, mobile devices, switches, and other network devices typically do not have additional software that can be removed. Here we are again. It comes back around. Teresa wants to implement an access control scheme that sets permissions based on what the individual's job requires. What the individual's job requires. Which of the following schemes is most suited to this type of implementation? Is it ABAC, DAC, MAC, RBAC? So, attribute-based access control, discretionary access control, mandatory access control, or rule/role-based access control. So we just gotta dog. My puppy was running around at my feet. Figure out what she was doing. But we have been over this. We've cried about it. We've whined about it. Let's see how our answers come out. Yes! Woo! We did it. All right. No, that is fantastic. It is role-based access control. So again, like I said earlier, when it's talking about an individual's job, the permissions based on that individual's responsibilities, highly likely going to be role-based. When you talk about discretionary access control, it's going to be giving an individual access. If it's MAC, it's normally going to be security clearance is what you're going to see it tied to that. Attribute based, of course, things adjacent to the role. So things like your location, time, patch level, things like that on your particular device. So role based is about the individual. MAC is about clearance. Discretionary is about an owner having the discretion to give somebody access, and then attribute is about something other than you or the device trying to access that data. It is about the location. It's something tangential to it, something that is not about the device itself, but maybe where the device is located or the time that it's trying to access it, or the patch level. So Olivia wants to install a host-based security package that can detect attacks against the system coming from the network. But she does not want to take the risk of blocking the attacks since she fears that she might inadvertently block legitimate traffic. What type of tool could she install that will meet this requirement? So is it a host firewall, a host-based intrusion detection system, host-based intrusion prevention system, or a data loss prevention tool? Come here. Stubborn Frenchie. All right, so we're back up to 7 people participating. This is awesome. 7 out of 8, and I think only because Mithra Beata can't get on her phone because she's casting to her TV, which I appreciate. So I absolutely love it. All right, closing the poll. Y'all nailed it. Host-based intrusion detection system. Because she doesn't want to stop the attacks. Yeah, Frank, you nailed it. It is absolutely, host-based security package. Okay, so I've got 3 that can detect attacks. Well, firewall is just going to go yes, no, yes, no. It's not going to do anything. But both of these can detect. But hold on, she doesn't want to block attacks. She wants to take no action. So she doesn't want to prevent them. She just wants to detect them. So yeah, and you will see questions like this on the exam. They do actually put questions that have the answer within them if you can break them down. So good observation, Frank. I really appreciate it. Or Franklin, whichever you prefer. So on to the final question for this evening. Fred has recently purchased a network router and is preparing to deploy it. Which of the following is a common step in deploying new routers? Is it disabling unwanted services, removing unnecessary software, installing antivirus, or changing default passwords? Figured I'd, not be too brutal on the last one for the evening. So. I say that though, and then I'm going to feel bad if somebody doesn't get it. But again, we're here to learn. I kind of try to bell curve my questions and ramp up the hard ones and then kind of wind down, repeat a couple of them a little bit, kind of touch on the topics twice. So and Chris, thank you for throwing the VVox link in the Discord. I really appreciate that. Still trying to figure out the process and get everything, throw my darts everywhere they need to go when it's time. So all right, final question, and survey says changing default passwords. Thank you all for getting it right. Finish on the easy one for the evening. No, that is so yeah, network devices, things like printers, I guess, unless they're an HP printer, which probably has a bunch of unwanted services and unnecessary software on it. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, tune into today's Simply Cyber Daily Cyber Threat Briefing. You'll hear enough about HP printers and why they are the devil. So please tune in. It is absolutely fantastic. And I laughed the entire time while Jerry went on his tirade about HP printers. But yes, so changing default passwords is, for most network devices, the first thing you should do. That is, everything else here is normally a PC, a server, mobile phone, but your hardware normally will not have that kind of stuff. So that is it for the evening. Frank, it doesn't matter to me. I see you on LinkedIn as Franklin, and then I know you as Frank, so I just wanted to throw it out there. But yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah. That his tirade this morning just made me laugh because we had an HP printer and it started doing all sorts of stupid stuff, and just I finally got fed up with it, threw it in the garbage, then bought a Canon that is not much better, and then a couple weeks ago go over to my mom's house and I'm having trouble printing. Go and look, and sure enough, it's an HP printer. I'm like, oh, come on, like back in this dumpster fire. And yeah, sure enough, it after going through and had to, all the ink cartridges when I got there were about 40%. By the time I did like 3 prints on it to like clean the print heads and everything else, I ran 3 of the ink cartridges out. Another one was down to about 50%. Then did a couple test pages, just trying to, because it was printing lines all over it. It was not doing a great job. but wound up burning through like probably the equivalent of about 2.5 to 3 ink cartridges. It was insane. I mean, you think about that. It was like 3 ink cartridges. That's, I mean, especially HP ink cartridges, what, $180, $200 worth of ink cartridges just to get the printer to start printing properly. I looked at my stepdad. I was like, don't know what to tell you, but you got to order more ink now. So yeah, and it still wasn't perfect. I mean, went through, I cleaned as much as we could with a Q-tip and alcohol and everything else. I mean, I went deep because I used to have to fix so we had Reynolds and Reynolds was our dealer management system at the dealership, and they supplied these all the printers in a lot of double evening. But I did want to show you what I'm working on. Let's see here. Why is the valve coming? What did I click on? That's odd. You can see all of me Googling for goofy stuff, trying to get my headphones working and everything, and Restream wasn't working. Let's see here. That's what I'm looking for. So what I am working on, so I've started digging into what we can do for the community, beyond, teaching on Monday nights, what we can do beyond, supporting each other, but how we can start to drive the, I guess I got to take a step back. I came from the automotive industry where things like apprenticeships and mentorships were a normal thing, where you brought in somebody and, they came in as a valet, but they showed technical aptitude. They showed the drive. They showed other things. So you brought them in and you put them into a mentorship, or, somebody came in and they had, shop class or whatever from high school or even from college. They came in, or from a 2-year degree, you brought them into an apprenticeship. And we didn't really have internships unless you were in the white collar side of the car industry. But the big thing is that I want to drive a different approach to cybersecurity. A lot of our work is hands-on. A lot of our work is, experience-based. So having but y'all are having issues? What did I do? Wait, I can see my screen. All right, can everybody see it? Everybody good? Let me know. At least if you can hear me, you can at least hear what I'm talking about. Hopefully you haven't missed anything, Chris. Maybe my hot garbage internet was acting up. Okay, so I guess I'll kind of jump back just a second. But coming out of the car industry, we did a lot of apprenticeships, we did mentorships, but we don't have anything really like that in cybersecurity or even IT in general. I mean, unless you're going into help desk and you are suffering and you are just getting crapped on every day. So it's one of those things where I really want to drive a different approach to our industry where, we can take people who are career changers. We can take people who are students. We can take people who, they may have just gotten laid off and be able to offer a way to transition into the cyber workforce. So you get somebody that gets laid off from Cisco that was, in sales. We can give you that mentorship and we can guide you into a position. We can provide a way through the workforce centers, or we can provide connections that we have built a way into the industry. So having something where, you know, we have a way to, when you are trying to make that break into the industry and find your foothold, we can give you an avenue for an apprenticeship. We can give you an internship. So you're still in college, you can get an internship. If you're out of college or out of high school and you want to apprentice somewhere and learn from the bottom up, you're a career changer, you need the mentorship. You know, an apprenticeship probably wouldn't hurt. Exactly. People who become disabled and have to work at home. Absolutely. There are so many avenues, and this industry is so not tied to an office that there's avenues for everybody, and we need to find a way to, you know, and actually you see it down here. This keyword, externship, where you don't have to necessarily be in the office to benefit from an internship. So finding a way that we can provide a program like this and be able to connect people to a employer. And the thing that really got me going is the Denver ISSA group. They had a talk back in, I think this is October last year. It was October, November, and I started listening to them, and they were talking about their success. And so they have, I mean, like, for example, Lockheed is one of their success stories. They have a supply chain of candidates to feed into Lockheed Martin for cybersecurity. Like, how insane is that? You're taking people that show the aptitude, show the drive, and have the potential. You are working with local workforce centers, so government funded centers, to provide education, but also funding is a big part of it. Being able to provide funding to the employer to train these people. And I say people, I mean all of you, maybe me one day, I never know. But to train individuals, to bring them up and get them into the workforce. Like, this is what I think the industry needs, is a drive to a different standard. Like, we have a way to do things better, and we're not doing it. But why not? So that's my TED Talk. I mean, I am still very much in the infancy on this, but I am hoping that I can grow this in Atlanta, show that it works, and use it as a launch platform. Having, you know, I've got West Coast Denver, I've got East Coast Atlanta, and we can work together and blow this up across the country. And then, you know, from there, ISSA is an international group, so hopefully beyond that. I really think that there's a big potential to reset the way our workforce is operating now and how our hiring is operating. And I really think that it's going to take it's going to take people with something between their ears to be able to really get there. I think somebody's got to be able to see the bigger picture and further down the road. So having strategic partners within these businesses that, you know, might get an advantage by drawing from these pools, things like that. But yeah, Space Tacos, I mean, growing the next generation of IT and cyber babies. Essentially, I mean, the way that I look at it is that I'm going to be bringing in my future CISO, is the way that I think about it. I have some of these students that I've met at Kennesaw State University, some of the people that I have met just through my travels in the Atlanta area, these young people, these students, blow my mind how driven, how committed they are to what we do. And a few of them do not have internships, have not had an internship. Some of them are in their senior year. Why not? Why are we not lining them up for success by the time they graduate to be in and be successful and be my future CISO, be my future CIO. We're honestly, cybersecurity needs to become a trade and not a white collar approach, in my opinion. There's room for the white collar, and there always is in any business. Somebody has got to be the head honcho, the chief. So, but that doesn't need to be where everybody starts. I mean, it doesn't have to be where the people that make the big breaks start. So now that's, again, welcome to my TED Talk. I'm very passionate about it. Like, this is something that when I heard about it, I got excited and I just got overwhelmed with it. And then I started just banging on the doors of my local group until they got tired of hearing from me and then dumped me into ISSA International's lap. So that's my conversation tomorrow is with them. It's kind of intimidating because little old me, but I'm really looking to, you know, I've already talked to a couple of the people part of the organization that drive this program in Denver, and it's absolutely incredible, and it just makes me that much more excited. So I really think there's a huge opportunity here, and something that is a valuable untapped space that we just have to find a way to provide that gap. And I think, you know, Slay Security Plus 701 on Monday nights is a great place to start. So just my 2 cents. I really wish this dumb board would work. There's so many. Oh, it freaked out and it actually started playing the Jeopardy theme song. I hit that thing like 20 minutes ago. I don't know if y'all can hear the Jeopardy theme song, but I can. Hey, nobody can knock GRC because I don't care what you do, GRC is somewhere in your job. So it is absolutely 110% a part of it. So whether you know it or not, it's kind of like grammar in your English class. Like, you know, sometimes somebody will try and force it down your throat, but you know, you need it to be able to communicate. So in order to do cybersecurity, you have to have the grammar, risk, and compliance part of it. So yeah, Space Tacos, I gotta figure this new fangled piece of hardware out. Whatever, I mean, it's there, but it doesn't really do anything. So I gotta figure out how to balance the inputs and all that shenanigans. Well, I'll stream to myself at some point and play with it, or stream it while and Chris is there heckling me. So I put on there, do not watch testing, and Chris goes and watches my video for all of 25 seconds or whatever it was. Holy cow, y'all are amazing. Yeah, Justin, you are hitting right on me. Switching careers. I mean, going from working in the car business to not knowing where to even start in cyber. Frank, yeah, I mean, I remember we talked about that your brother-in-law has you on as a junior penetration tester. Like, that's incredible. Like, it's an apprenticeship. Like, you're coming in as a junior employee and they're training you from the bottom up to do the role. Like, that's what we need. We need more people like that. We need more companies like that. I mean, drive the growth of our employees as opposed to just hiring the people that and throwing more. I hate to say it like this, but throwing more money at them, because we all want to make more money. But being able to grow and level up our employees is the way to go. Pay them more in the right fashion. But yeah. Uh-oh. Space Taco is going to write our Slay Security Plus lesson plans. Might be what we need. Jesse and I kind of do this like playing Pong. We're constantly back and forth about what's what we're doing. So I might need a lesson plan coordinator. Yeah, so, well, it is, holy cow, it's almost 9 o'clock. Yeah, I gotta let my dogs out and I gotta go eat some dinner and wrap up for the evening. But yeah, we'll definitely be talking more about the AIM program, the apprenticeship, internship, and mentorship program going forward. I'm really excited for it. And you know, there's a bright future ahead, and I look forward to being a part of it with all of you. We've really got something good going on here. So, but yeah, I'm gonna call it an evening. It is time to wrap up, but I hope to see y'all on Wednesday night for the Cyber Hamburglar at Kennesaw State University, talking about my journey and my tips and everything else to break into cybersecurity. Chris, I absolutely will be taking Q&A from YouTube. I will have somebody watching it and throwing questions up. I'm going to try and keep I'm going to do a couple slides for it, but mostly it's going to be just me talking Q&A, talking with the room. So I'm going to try to just do like 2-3 slides, get through it in about 5-6 minutes, and then it's going to be Q&A for the next Lord knows how long, because the last hour meeting went over 2 hours. So I'll be there to talk, and I will enjoy every minute of it. So Space Tacos, I will absolutely post it. It is going to be blowing up. So Chris, you want to throw me your top like 3, and I will start with those, or I'll throw them in the mix of the first few. But we'll definitely chat. So you've already been chatting with me on Discord, but y'all have a wonderful evening, and just all I can ask, make it a great week, stay secure, and I will see y'all next Monday. And again, thank you to Simply Cyber for sponsoring our stream.